Hello guys, hope everyone is having a good weekend. I'm gonna try to make a quick video talking about my interface. I've been asked a few questions about some elements of my UI, specifically about some WeakAuras. So in this video I'm just gonna quickly talk about the add-ons and WeakAuras that I think are important if you want to push into the hierarchies. Some are Arcane specific, some are Mage specific, some are just general add-ons you should have just for if you want to push hierarchies. I'm looking for the dummies. I have no idea where they are. Okay, there. So let's start with the add-ons. So first of all, I'm gonna mention my timer add-ons. I use BigWigs and LittleWigs. You have the option between BigWigs and LittleWigs and DBM. I used to use DBM, but since Shadowlands, I've switched to BigWigs, and of course you need LittleWigs for dungeons, LittleWigs. And I haven't had any issues, so I've just stuck with BigWigs, but you can use either BigWigs or DBM depending on your personal preferences. I don't think it matters that much. So I'm gonna list the add-ons actually in the description of this video, and I'm gonna talk about them briefly here. The next add-on is Clique. Clique basically saves you having to make a macro for mouse over. It's mostly a healer add-on, but you can also use it for DPS or tanks that have utility spells that go on friendly teammates. I use it strictly for remove curse. So basically when I press X and I have my mouse on a party member's frame, it will basically cast remove curse because that's the keybind I have, and you can set any keybind you want for any spell you want basically. Moving on. Delete mana gem is specific to Arcane Mage. It basically allows you to make a macro. So this macro right here, it's in the description of the add-on itself. So what this macro does basically, it deletes your mana gem and makes a new one. So with the default UI, I think it still works that way. With the default UI, if you don't have this add-on, let's say I use this mana gem. Now I'm on 2 stacks of mana gem. If I want to create another mana gem, or I want to create a fresh mana gem, it won't allow me. There should be like an error message here, but I've removed the error message. So what you have to do, you have to actually delete the mana gem, and then you have to cast, which is inconvenient, right? But basically this add-on gives you a macro, one button that actually deletes the mana gem and then conjures a new one. So this is specific to Arcane Mages. I'd say it's pretty important. You can you should be making new mana gems in your downtime between pulls or after a wipe or stuff like that, just so you don't end up in a position where you're chain pulling and you don't have time to actually conjure one. So you should get in the habit of conjuring mana gems when you can, between pulls or when you have downtime. I use details for my damage meter. You can use whatever you want. I think details is the most popular add-on right now as a damage meter add-on. I use grid. I don't think this is important. It might be important, especially if you're a healer, but for Mage specifically, I use grid because I used to main Disc Priest, and I have my grid set up in a way where it makes it easier for me to see my atonements on my teammates and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say it's important. You can also set it up to show certain debuffs and stuff like that, but you have other ways to show them using WeakAuras or other add-ons. I mean, grid needs a bit of customization. Especially, I don't think it's important as a DBS spec, especially. So idTip can be good. It shows in the tooltip. You can see the spell ID and icon ID. So you can actually, the most thing you're going to use is the spell ID. So this is useful if you want to make custom WeakAuras and you need the spell ID of a spell, or if you just need an ID of anything for whatever reason. I use Leatrix Plus. Is actually, I think this is a pretty popular add-on. It basically gives you a lot of quality of life upgrades basically to the default interface. You can automate quests, automate gossip, stuff like that, sell junk. You can remove keybind and microtext, hide error messages. You can do a lot of things basically, and some of these options I think are baked into the default game right now, but you still have a bunch of extra quality of life upgrades basically. The LFGSpamFilter basically filters out advertisements in the LFG panel, so you don't see the ads. And of course, LittleWigs, I talked about this earlier. MRT and MDT, which is basically method raid tools and mythic dungeon tools. Method raid tools is good. I use it mostly to see the battle res. It shows me if we have battle res up and how many charges and what's the cooldown on our next battle res. I also use it as a marks bar, which is basically this bar right here. I can use it to mark. I can't do that now because I'm not at a party, but you can use it to mark skull, whatever. I have a keybind for skull, but you know, mostly for world markers as well, and for battle res and stuff like that. There's basically a lot of other options when you do a ready check. It basically shows you if you have your buffs up, your flask and your food buff and the oil thingies, the runes. And of course for MDT, which is Mythic Dungeon Tools, this is a really good add-on, especially if you're somebody pushing the hierarchies, and especially if you're a tank. So this add-on basically gives you a blueprint of the dungeon. It shows you where every mob is, if it patrols, so you can see this patrol. It shows the line of where it patrols. For same for this one. You can also do a route. So let's say I want to do a route for freehold. I don't want to like take somebody else's route. I can do my own route. So let's say we do the standard route. First pull is going to be these 3 packs, and then you pull this, and then you pull this, and then you pull the boss, and so on and so forth. And it shows you how much percentage you have at the moment. Excuse me. So if I were just to pull these, like just these packs, I would be at 18.75%. So you can continue doing this until you get basically 100%. So you know if you're going to miss out on percentages. And what's really important about MDT is you can actually click on you can right click on any mob or boss as well. And it shows you all the abilities of this mob. It shows you what kind of creature type it is, humanoid, and what kind of spells it's affected by. So for this Iron Tide Corsair, it's affected by Blanket Silence, by Sap, Disorient, Spheres, Slows, Taunt, whatever. But when we go for this Enforcer ad, it's only affected by Taunt, right? Because this ad can't be CC'd. And it shows you what abilities it casts over here as well. And it should show as well if you have an ability that can be interrupted. So basically Healing Bomb. I think it used to show, but basically we know this spell can be interrupted, but I thought there was like an interrupt tag or something like that. But anyways, so that's it for MDT. And you can share the routes. Let's say if you have a specific route, you can also share it. It's grayed out right now because I'm not in a group. You can share it to the party, and the party can open the route and they can see the route. You can add different notes, and you can draw. You can do a lot of stuff. You can draw like a line, like go over here. There's some way to write a note, but I'm actually blanking out. But anyways, it's a really good add-on to have. And then of course OmniCD. OmniCD is really important, especially as a healer or tank, but it's also good as a DPS. Mostly to show, if you're not using a WeakAuras, to show you, to track the interrupts of your party members. OmniCD basically has an interrupt tracker baked into the add-on itself. You can see the interrupt bar. So basically this is the interrupt bar, and because I'm the only one in the party, it's only going to show my name, but if I was in a party, it would show everybody's name. And you can see it in my videos. And also you can choose specific abilities to show. So I'm showing the icons of what kind of stops we have. I basically made a bar for stops, and you can choose what kind of stops you want to show. You can show, for me, I'm showing DB and Blast Wave. You can show things like Cap Totem, Typhoon, Cyclone, Chaos Nova, whatever else you want. Any kind of stop, or you can track any kind of spell basically, so you know if your teammates have it up or not. And it also tracks certain spells to the left side, or you can actually customize it where you want it to be, but I show it to the left side of the party frames. You can show offensive abilities, you can show defensive abilities, interrupts, whatever you want. So, and you can customize it. So you can show all the abilities over here, interrupt, stops, whatever. But most people, I think, me included, I like to split them up, so I keep the interrupts alone. I track the interrupts alone. You can basically make your own bar here with the extra bars. I track the stops alone. I put them over here with icons, and I track defensive cooldowns alone. I show them to the left side of the party frame. So this is really good if you want to know. You can also track. I have one for externals, but it's not going to show up anything because I don't have any externals as a mage. But if I had like a disc in my group, it would show barrier cooldown. It would show rapture. It would show, for example, if I had a holy, it would show divine hymn. It would show trank if I had a druid, etc. So I think this is a really important add-on to know what kind of defensives, what kind of offensives your party has, but especially what kind of stops and what kind of interrupts are up. And especially if you're in a coordinated group and you're leading, I think this is mandatory and a must-have if you're leading a group, so you can call out who interrupts and you can call out who's going to use his stops on what, stuff like that. This is a really, really important add-on. It's mostly useful if you're a healer to know what kind of defensive spells your allies have, to know if they can, like, if they're able to deal with a certain mechanic by themselves or if they need an external. It's useful for tanks to see what kind of offensive cooldown his party has, so you can either pull big or stuff like that. And it's also useful for DPS as well, for the reasons I mentioned before. So that's it for OmniCD. I think OmniCD is one of the most important add-ons to have if you want to push hierarchies. And then, of course, Plater. Plater is a personal, I would say it's a personal preference, but I would still say most people who push hierarchies, they use Plater and some sort of profile. So Plater is basically a nameplate add-on, and you can import profiles from other people. So the profile that I've imported, or the profile that I use, is actually Jundi's profile. I will link it down below. It colors the nameplate of mobs that can be interrupted. It colors the nameplate of the highest HP mob in the pack. It does a lot of useful stuff, and when you get used to it, it can be really, really helpful to discern between the different mobs in the group. So which mob needs to be interrupted, which mob needs to be focused down or funneled, and stuff like that. I wouldn't say Plater is mandatory, but most people do use Plater, especially on the people who push hierarchies. So I would say it's a good add-on to have. Premade groups filter is also another really good add-on, especially if you're DPS. You can basically filter the groups for a certain mythic rating. You want to filter certain dungeons. You want to filter it so there's at least a bloodlust or battle res in the group, stuff like that. It's really, really useful. Quartz is basically a cast bar replacement add-on. I guess it would be mostly useful for caster classes, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's mandatory or anything like that. Of course, Radar.io. If you don't know Radar.io, I mean, why are you even here? Everybody knows Radar.io. Simulationcraft is good to sim your character. This is mostly a DPS thing. You can also sim for AoE. I guess Simulationcraft was originally meant for raids, so you can sim on single targets, but you can also sim. There are ways to sim for AoE. I'm not sure how accurate or reliable it is, but I guess it's pretty reliable these days. The way I do it, I sim for patchwork for 5, 7, and 9 target types. For patchwork, and then as target count, I do either 5, 7, or 9, and for the timer, I do either 1 minute or 1 minute and a half or 5 minutes, and I basically sim all these different variations. And you sometimes get like a certain upgrade that is an upgrade for every single variation. So you get like a ring upgrade that's an upgrade if you do 5, 7, or 9 targets for 1 minute and a half or 5 minutes. It always shows up as an upgrade. So basically, it means this specific item is an upgrade in an AoE situation. TalentTree tweaks and this is basically just a quality of life upgrade to the normal TalentTree. You can switch specs here without having, like, I can just click this to switch specs without having to go over here. I wouldn't say it's important. tullaRange is important. Basically, if you're out of range, I guess it doesn't sort. Yeah, if you're out of range, it shows the icon as red, and if you're out of mana, it shows the icon as blue. So So it's gonna be okay. I'm not gonna run out of mana, but basically, if it's mostly I mostly use it if you're out of range to know if I'm out of range. So if I'm out of range, it shows as red icon, and when I go back in range, it shows up as So it's mostly a caster add-on as well. WeakAuras, of course. And that's it for the add-ons. So I'm gonna talk about my WeakAuras. So WeakAuras is really a personal thing. I mean, that's kind of cheesy to say, but it truly is. I use some WeakAuras that others might find not useful. So let's talk about the main WeakAuras that I use. I use Luxthos Package. Luxthos is basically a content creator, and he does WeakAuras for all classes. So you can go on his website, or you can just type Luxthos on Google or on the on the WAGA website, and you can find all his packages. So I basically have the Mage package, and I have customized something to my preference, but just downloading it and installing it, it should be ready to go without having to adjust anything. And over time, you might feel the need to adjust certain stuff. You can do that. You can do that when you feel the need to do so. So this is the main WeakAuras package that I use, which is the Luxthos package. Moving on, I have certain WeakAuras that I've made myself or I've taken from other people. So I basically have a WeakAura for when I enter certain dungeons that need remove curse. It basically shows me an icon over here. I think I took this actually from Elsemir's. Elsemir has done a WeakAura package for Paladins. I basically took his WeakAura package and modified it to make it work for remove curse. I have this WeakAura to show if I need energized barrier. Same with remove curse, but for some dungeons you need energized barrier. This is the WeakAura that I've created. It just shows me if ice flows is up. If I have ice flows, it just shows me I have one stack of ice flows up, and the duration basically as a swipe. If I use another stack, it's going to show me 2 stacks in the duration, etc., etc. I don't use this unused effects. So this basically just shows my Bloodlust cooldown, my Battle Pot cooldown, and my Trinket cooldown. I actually took this from 4G's Discord. I'm gonna post 4G's Discord in the description. He's a mage. He's a rank 1 mage. He mostly plays raids. He's a very good mage. He does a lot of informational videos about Arcane Mages specifically for raids. And he also has his own WeakAura package, and he has his own Discord channel where he posts his WeakAuras. So this is something I took from Froggy. Is he Froggy or 4G? I actually forgot his name. Anyways, I'm gonna post his Discord, and you can find this on the Discord, or you can make it yourself. It basically just shows Bloodlust timer, your Bloodlust cooldown, your Trinket cooldown, and your Battle Bot cooldown. Phosphorus Barrage timer basically shows as your touch of the mage, as your barrage is flying in the air. I guess it doesn't work if it only works if I have specific. As the barrage is flying, I can see when I can, how much time I have before I can touch of the Magi, because if you've seen the Arcane Mage guides, it's actually better if you don't barrage and instantly touch of the Magi, especially if you're at range from a target. I mean, if you're up close, you're just gonna barrage and Magi, but if you're at range, because the barrage has travel distance, it's not instant, but touch of the Magi is instant, so you can. It's sort of a min-max kind of efficiency tip, you know. So if I basically did barrage and touch of the Magi instantly, touch of the Magi would be on cooldown, but I'd still be on global cooldown from my touch of my barrage, so I cannot cast my Arcane Blast instantly. So this basically just gives you like probably 1 extra global, maybe 2, depending on how far you are, or if you're double loss or stuff like that. It's a min-maxing issue. If you know about this, if you've read the Arcane Mage guide and you know about having to touch of the Magi while barrage is in the air, you'll know why you need this WeakAura. Do you really need it? No, but it's optimization kind of thing, or a min-maxing. If you want to make it min-max your damage, basically. So this is for Phosphorus Barrage Totem Timer. Again, I'm gonna post the names of these WeakAuras in the description. Radiant Spark stacks. This basically, you find this default with the Luxthos WeakAuras package, but I made my own custom one. I think I didn't make this. I took this from Froggy as well. With his WeakAuras package, I took the Radiant Spark WeakAuras that he did, and I basically I use it myself. Again, this is also, yeah. So here it says 4G and here it says Froggy. Now I'm confused, but I'm pretty sure his name's he's 4G. So, and this is 4G's Touch of the Mage calculator. This basically tells you. This only shows. I made it work so it only shows up when I'm in execute. So in execute for Arcane Mage, and only during execute you're gonna use Barrage as your last global of Touch of the Mage. So we do this in execute because of Arcane Bombardment, which makes Barrage deal additional damage against targets below 35% health. So that's why we Barrage as the last global of Touch of the Magi in execute. And basically what this does is it shows you how many globals you have before the end of Touch of the Magi. So we can Barrage on the last global. It just helps you Barrage on the last global. This is shows your Rune of Power timing and whether you're out of the Rune of Power. If you're out of range of the Rune of Power, it's gonna show as gray. And on the left side, you're gonna see how many, and the text in the red is basically how many globals you have left in Rune of Power. I don't use this anymore. This basically tells you, it's not really important, but it tells you if you use Barrage in touch successfully. So you know about the trick we did where you Barrage mid-air, and then you're supposed to use Touch of the Magi before Barrage hits the target. So this basically tells you if you successfully use Barrage, if you successfully use Touch of the Magi, or if you were late and you actually used it. So wait, I'm gonna show an example here. I'm gonna show an example here. So if I do it correctly, you're gonna see Barrage OK. It's gonna show Barrage OK. I used it within 0.5 seconds. No, I gotta wait for Touch of the Magi to be back up. So if I mistime it, let's say I Barrage and then I mistime it. Oh, it didn't actually show. I think I was really late, so that's why it didn't show. But anyway, if it doesn't show, it basically means you mistimed it. You basically hit your Touch of the Magi after the Barrage hit, which is not what you're supposed to do. Anyways, so this basically just tells you if you did it properly or not. It's not really important. It's just something. It's just like a feedback, you know. It gives you feedback that you did it properly or not. And it gives me a sound, like maybe if you've seen my videos, there's like this constant like cha-ching sound, cha-ching, cha-ching. It basically means I did my Barrage properly. I did Barrage into Touch of the Magi properly. This just shows you if you know with the temporal warp talent, you can use Bloodlust for yourself. So this basically tells you if it's safe to use Bloodlust for yourself, or it's not safe because the Bloodlust debuff is gonna come. The Bloodlust debuff is gonna drop on your group before your Bloodlust cooldown is ready. So you don't want to delay Bloodlust for the group just so you Bloodlust yourself. So this basically tells you it's safe to Bloodlust for yourself because Bloodlust cooldown is gonna be back up when the debuff drops from the group. And the rest of these are basically Frost and Fire. I don't use them anymore. Altered, this is pretty important. So it basically shows you, it shows you at what HP you altered at. So when I alter time, basically how many time I have left and at what HP I altered at. So I altered at 100% HP. So I know if I'm low HP, I can just alter back up to full HP. But sometimes you miss time, alter time, and you actually use it after the mechanic goes off, so it's gonna show you like 50% HP. So if the healer heals you to full, there's no point altering back, right? Except for like positioning requirements, but you know what I mean. So this is also an important add-on. This just shows the cooldown on your barrier, or it shows the timer on your barrier. Sorry, so I have like 57 seconds left, and I have still 112k absorb left. So I know if I can refresh it, or I don't need to refresh the barrier, basically. Moving on, alter time announcer just basically announces to the group when you use alter time and what your current HP is when you use alter time. You're gonna see it in my videos. When I alter time, it's gonna basically type a party chat. It's gonna type a text in party chat that I used alter time at a specific HP. I mostly do this just so the healer knows I used alter time. He can maybe ignore me and he can use an external on somebody else, stuff like that. So let's move on to general WeakAuras that are not specific to Mage. So raid ability timeline basically takes the timers from either DBM or LittleWigs and shows them in this format where you have like a vertical bar, and it starts. I think you can customize it. It starts from 10 seconds and counts down, and it shows basically it's a timer bar same as DPM and LittleWigs, but it's just different in appearance. I think this one is more clearer, where it shows vertically and it starts from 10 seconds and ticks down basically. This basically shows, it puts a circle on your mouse. You can see the circle I have on my mouse, so you don't lose track of your mouse. You can also make it so it shows the global cooldown and stuff like that. This just shows FPS and ping meter. I use it to show my word lag because I don't have it over here. Moving on. So I'm going to talk about, I have an entire group just for WeakAuras. This gives you a prediction on Rokmora, which is the first boss on Neltharian's lair. It basically tells you if he's going to spawn more adds before his next shatter spawn. So this is specific to Neltharian's lair, and you can find this WeakAura. It's posted in the Titanforge podcast Discord. You know, the Titanforge podcast with Tetos and Dratnos, and I forgot the third guy's name. So they have a Discord, and basically you can find a lot of WeakAuras there for Mythic Plus and Raid. This is basically just shows it's for afflicted affix. It shows if any afflicted is up and how much time you have left before you can dispel them. Targeted spells, it tells you if you're targeted by any spell. It gives you like a sound notification that you're targeted by a certain spell. This includes stuff like Containment Beam on Halls of Infusion, Lightning Bolt from like the first boss of Vortex Pinnacle, stuff like that. Anything that targets you specifically. It gives you, it shows you the icon and the cast time. If there's a cast time, it shows you the cast time next to it. So how much time you have before you need to use a defensive, or you can block it or interrupt it, whatever. These are both for, I think this is really, really important for Neltharius, last boss. So this basically tells you when you can use your extra action button for the last boss. So you basically damage her as soon as her shield is up. It just tells you, it gives you like a timer. So it gives like timer, wait, and then as it says now, you basically click the extra action button for the treasure you've taken, so you can damage the boss instantly as soon as her shield is up. This is for specific to Neltharius, last boss, and this one just shows, it shows what type of treasure you have. So if you took this treasure, it's going to tell you have the flowers that does 12 yard AoE. If you took this one, it's going to tell you that you have a charge. So you know what to expect when you're pressing the extra action button. This is for last boss, Vortex Pinnacle. It tells you when to jump. Jump after 08. It's gonna say get ready and then jump. This one shows the cast bar of your focus target, but this is advised to only show certain casts, and you can basically customize it here. So let's take for example Freehold is going to show only if your focus casts Healing Balm, or only if your focus casts Frost Blast. If they cast any other spell, it's not going to show this bar. It's only going to show when a spell that's checked here in the option is cast. And you can add spells here. I guess there's some way to add spells with, I guess, in the trigger, maybe. I don't know too much about coding, but maybe over here. Yeah, basically, you can add spells over here, basically. Anyways, and you can customize it to only show if your interrupt is available. This Season 2 Dungeon Cast basically shows the cast of the pack you're currently pulling. This is especially useful if you pull like a big pack. You can see like, for example, Alderman, if the caster, if the ad is casting Hail of Stone, it's going to show the Hail of Stone cast. If you have Sonic Burst from the, also Alderman the Bats, let's say Spear Flurry from Halls of Infusion, Tidal Divergence from Halls of Infusion, Metamorphosis, this is the Worm and Notharian's Lair. So you know basically a certain ad is casting an important cast that either needs that is either a frontal, so you need to be careful, or a cast that needs to be interrupted, or a cast that basically needs to be stopped. For example, Hail of Stone. Alyssa Mirror's Dungeon Frontal. This basically just gives you a sound effect when any mob casts a frontal, so you can be careful to move out. Healer Mana Watcher. This is good as a tank. It just shows you the status of your healer, if he's far away, if he's offline, and it shows you the percentage of his mana, so you know if you can pull the next pack safely or not. This is mostly a tank thing, but it's also good to know the status of your healer. So this is the WeakAuras package for Dragonflight dungeons. It's an entire package that shows timers and different stuff for all the dungeons, and I think this is pretty important. It shows you if you gotta dodge certain stuff, if you gotta outrange, if you have like this Withering Curse cast debuff on you from the Underrot, like the troll casters. It shows you a lot of stuff. It shows you some timers for the bosses. I mean, this is stuff that sometimes even LittleWigs doesn't show, or DBM doesn't show, so I think this is also pretty mandatory to have. And then this is basically an auto marker. It marks the mobs automatically as you put your mouse on them. You can use it. You can do it where you need to hold shift, and other stuff like that. Some of these stuff I used to use when I was a healer. I don't use anymore. Target. I don't think I use this. Spell CD on nameplates. I think this one just shows on the nameplate if a certain party member is being targeted by a spell. And this is also mostly a healer thing. It's not only, but mostly a healer thing. So you know, as a healer, you need to maybe throw an external on the guy, or you need to focus heal him because he's low HP and he's gonna be targeted by like a certain spell. He's gonna die. So yeah, that's it for that. I think that is everything, guys. I think this video went for much longer than I had hoped, but I've had a few questions regarding my interface, so I thought I'd do like one video that encompasses everything, and I talk about, I guess, the important elements. I mean, there's some stuff I didn't talk about, but I don't think they're important. I mostly talked about the things that I think that are important to have as a mage. And not even as a mage, as a player in general, if you want to push, especially into the higher keys. Even if you're still at the lower keys, but you have intentions, you want to push into the higher keys in the future, I would still use these things just to get a feel for them and get used to them. So as you get into the higher keys, you're not trying to focus on two things. You're not trying to focus on like the mechanics of the key. You're going to take more damage, and at the same time, you're trying to focus on getting used to the WeakAuras or the new interface you have. So I'd use these pretty early in my quote-unquote journey, my Mythic Plus journey, so I can get used to them. And by the time I'm at the higher keys, I'm more comfortable with my interface. You want to try to minimize basically the mental workflow as much as you can. You don't want to go into a dungeon and think about, do I have my Arcane Intellect up? I'm going to look over here, and then over here you're trying to look through all the buffs. Do I have? So instead of all that, you can have basically a certain WeakAuras that shows you that. Where is it? So basically, this WeakAuras, weight buffs. It basically shows you if somebody in your party is missing Arcane Intellect. So as soon as you see the icon up here, just throw out an Arcane Intellect and that's it. So you try to minimize the mental workflow as much as you can, so you can focus on the more important thing. You know, if you free up space in your head, you can focus on the more, and you can tunnel on the more important things that need to be dealt with in the dungeon. So that's it, guys. If you have any specific questions or any other questions, I'll be happy to help you. Post a question in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. I'm looking forward to the patch next week. I'm gonna try to push even higher keys, and I'm gonna stop posting videos for now because until at least until I get into the 22-23 range. I have some 22s from last week, but I didn't really they weren't clean runs, so I didn't post them. But I'm gonna try to be more consistent with my content, basically. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye bye.